Hey everyone, James Niggemeyer here. Thank you for tuning back into my YouTube channel. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I notice a lot of guys like to watch the videos, but not everybody's subscribing. If you don't want to miss any of the content, when you hit the subscribe button, you'll be notified when I upload a new video. So again, I appreciate you guys tuning into the YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about offshore fishing, structure fishing, ledge fishing. In particular, 3 presentations that for me, day in, day out, all over the country, not only on my home lake where I guide on Lake Fork, but as I fish different tournaments on different bodies of water, I'm gonna go over my 3 most productive presentations for catching bass on offshore structure in the summertime. First off, I've caught them a lot of different ways offshore, caught them deep cranking with a 5XD and a 6XD. And I mean, what could be more fun than cranking like an 8 or 10 XD and having a fish hit a big crankbait like that? I've caught them on a little underspin, or what some people call a chin spin, with a soft plastic on the back. And this is a Strike King caffeine shad. I've caught them on this big old flutter spoon, like a Strike King sexy spoon. Got a lot of teeth marks on this one. This is actually one of my favorite colors. I've caught them on swim baits out deep. This is a Strike King Rage Swimmer with a jig head. And you can fish a 3.5 inch, 4.5 inch, 5.5 inch, and you even get a jig head that goes up to 3/4 ounce, or even deeper, or even heavier, to get out down to those deeper waters and fish those bigger swim baits. A lot of guys have been enamored with a what they call a bucktail jig or a hair jig, and that's something I'm probably least familiar with, or have the least amount of success with, but it's quite new to me. But a lot of the guys on the Tennessee River chain like this presentation, have caught some big fish. I've actually witnessed some of that as well. I love a Carolina rig. I did a little video on how to rig a Carolina rig. I'll try to remember to put the link to that in the description in this video below. But when it comes to catching fish offshore, day in, day out, I'm going over my top 3 most productive, the baits and or techniques that catch fish for me more consistently. Number 1, I'm gonna go with a football jig. This one's a Strike King tour grade football jig, and when you pair this guy with a Rage Craw, it's just a tremendous fish producer, but it's also a great tool for locating cover that's on your structure. And what I mean by that is any kind of change in elevation of the actual bottom of the lake. Anything that sits on top of it, like brush or rock, that's cover. But the actual elevation change, the depth change, is what we would call structure. And that means like humps, points, islands, submerged islands, and even ledges where you have a break that drops off into deeper water. So that's the structure, and then your cover is your brush and or rock or gravel, those types of things. Another jig that I really like is this is a Denny Brower structure jig. It's got a little bit different head design. This one comes through brush, and brush piles a little bit better than the football jig. And again, I've paired it with a Strike King Rage Craw. But fishing a jig is just a tremendous fish producer for me. It's caught me a lot of fish whenever I'm fishing out deep, and that's why I definitely want to talk about that one. They get you big bites, and again, they telegraph what's on the bottom so you have a better idea what you're fishing. And the way that I fish that jig is I throw it out there, and then I strip off the line so that the bait falls where it landed, and it doesn't pendulum back to the boat. And once the line goes slack, you'll see, when it's falling, you'll see it kind of continue to have tension on it. When it goes slack on the surface of the water, you know it's hit the bottom. Go ahead and engage the reel. And then what I do is I actually fish my jig with the rod tip. I actually pull it, or sometimes I'm kind of hopping it, and you'll kind of play with those presentations or those retrieve styles until you get a good idea of what the fish want. So you just want to kind of vary that until the fish respond, and every once in a while you'll catch them stroking it. What I mean by that is you'll really hop it really high. The jig will pop up off the bottom. Sometimes those fish will just follow it when it's on the bottom, but you hop it up and it draws a reaction strike, and those fish just slam it. So those are some different types of presentations, but the key to remember here is I'm generally working my football jig or my structure head jig with the rod tip. Actually, most of the time, almost all the time, I'm working it with my rod tip. And then once I work it a distance, then I'm picking up the slack. I don't work it with the reel because I feel like the rod transmits the bottom composition, the bites, and different things like that. But also when I'm working it with the reel, I feel like this bait's moving too fast, and you can work a jig too quickly. So keep that in mind when you're fishing that jig. The next one, I've just caught a bunch of fish over the years on a big worm, like a big 10-inch or 12-inch worm. This is a King Anaconda, blue fleck, plum. This is plum. You really can't miss with like a plum or a blue fleck or maybe a purple or a black or something like that. Those colors like that work really well on offshore structure. And the only thing I can think of, the reason they like these big worms is their metabolism's so high in the summer, and they're burning through calories. And I generally like a curly tail. You know, there's times when you'll fish a big straight tail worm like this bullworm, and there's times when you'll even fish like a shaky head. But a big Texas rig worm for me gets me more bites in the summertime, paired with a 3/8, half ounce, sometimes all the way up to a 3/4 ounce tour grade tungsten weight, and then an owner 4/0 or 5/0 offset wide gap hook, and you're ready to go. I generally fish both the 10-inch worm and the jig on a 7'4" pitch and stick. That's a heavy action Team Lose Custom Pro speed stick, 7'4", and I like that heavier rod because a lot of times the jig and the worm are on the end of a cast, and you got to set the hook and really get that hook buried, and then fight that fish away from the structure and get him to the boat. But the drop shot is a tremendous fish producer, specifically when you have a high pressure system that runs through the area and it gets clear and bright and still lack of wind, or there's heavy fishing pressure situations where you get a lot of people on the water, there's a tournament going on. If you want to figure out if there's fish in an area, the drop shot is a tremendous fish producer. This guy's going to go in there, kind of come in all stealth. You'll figure out pretty quick if there's fish there with a drop shot. Generally, I'm using 10 to 15 pound test, Strike King tour grade braided line. I like that yellow because I can see it. And then a fluorocarbon, like a 10-pound test gamma fluorocarbon leader. And then like a 1/0 owner cover shot hook and a drop shot weight. And really, those are the presentations that really work well for me. Let me go into just how to work that drop shot, throw it out there just like the worm in a jig, let it sink to the bottom on a slack line. Then I tighten it up till I can feel the tension of the weight kind of dragging across the bottom. And then I just kind of shake that rod tip. I mean, I'm just shaking that rod tip. And then sometimes there's times when they don't want that shake, and I'll just drag it across the bottom. And then that worm is sitting above the weight. And it's such a finesse presentation. I like a Strike King Fat Baby Finesse worm, sometimes even the 6.5 inch. This is a 4.5 inch. Just a tremendous fish producer when those fish are offshore. If you can't catch them on one of those three, there's a good possibility that where you're fishing offshore, the fish aren't there. When it comes to fishing offshore, those three presentations have put more fish in my boat day in, day out. And I think it's because it's just something that's down there. They can pick it up easy. It doesn't require a lot of effort. And a lot of times you can fish it really slow and just kind of soak it right there in that high percentage area where you feel the rock or the gravel or some sort of change in the bottom composition. Maybe even there's brush down there, different things like that. And you can just keep that bait in the strike zone. And that's why I think those three baits have put more fish in my boat over the years when I'm fishing offshore structure. That's it for now, guys. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. Thanks for watching this video. And until next time, good fishing.